Today we're going to show you how to service your Sprag clutch. A couple of guys have called me asking how to service the Sprag clutch, and I thought I'd just make a video on it because there's a couple other issues with the Sprag clutch. One being that when it came from KISS, it didn't come with corrosion protection on it, so they tend to rust over time. Depending on what climate you're in. So we're gonna go ahead and take apart the Sprag clutch, get it painted, show you how to disassemble it, reassemble it, how to change the O-ring and what O-ring to change it with, and the proper way to put new transmission, ATF transmission fluid in there. So let's get to it.
So these are the E-clip pliers that we have. They're quite big, and you need them to be big because this, E-clip is no joke. You can get these online. They run right around $100, but this one is the ratcheting kind. Unfortunately, how far we need to deflect it is inside of the ratcheting, but you need a really good set of E-clip pliers to get this job done.
So once you unstab your engine and expose the Sprag clutch by itself here, this engine is completely removed. You don't have to do that. You could, with your engine on the chain hoist, just pull it back a little bit to access the Sprag clutch, but it's easier if the engine's completely removed. But what you want to do is get in here with your C-clip pliers and take them off. Now you have to have that big set of C-clip pliers that I showed you before because anything else won't work. This thing is just too big. So we'll show you right now how to take that C-clip out. So you get in here with the big ratcheting pliers, the C-clip pliers, and squeeze them together, and that E-clip will come right out.
Once you get the E-clip off, you need to remove one of these two small Allen screws. You don't need to take out both of them, just take out one of them. The top one would be better, that way you don't leak fluid out right away. Once you get the Allen screw out, get a air nozzle, the kind with the rubber tip on it, like this one right here, and put it up against the hole. And you don't need a lot of air pressure, just a little bit. Hold your hand in front of the aluminum piece and then blow a little bit of air in, and boom, it should pop right out. Once you get the Sprag clutch out, there is a bolt in the center here. Uses a 5/8 socket. The best thing to do to get this out is to use an air impact wrench, one similar to this one right here, and make sure that you use an impact socket because these are usually in there pretty tight and with some Loctite. But go ahead and remove that center bolt. This one we had already previously removed, so it came out real easy. But you take out that center bolt, and then once you do that, you could pull the entire Gilmer belt and outer Sprag clutch assembly off of the Speedway Engineering gearbox, and we'll do that now. And it should just pull straight off.
Oh yeah.
Might be a little tight. Once you get the center bolt out, you could pull the entire outer Sprag clutch and Gilmer belt pulley off of the main transmission. It might be a little snug. You might have to use a pry bar, but be careful that you don't bend that pulley guard in the back when you do it. but we'll go ahead and pull it off now. Now you can tap it with a dead blow to there. There you go. And the whole assembly comes off as one piece. So this one is already done and painted for corrosion resistance. This is the reason why you need to take this off, and you need to completely disassemble it. The outer Sprag clutch, make sure you don't paint on the inside. I wouldn't even paint on this outside, you know, just because you don't want to get any paint inside here. But paint the outside, remove this pulley guard and paint it, and then you'll have to tape off, because this you can't remove it from the Gilmer belt pulley, but tape this off and paint this right here. This is the piece that gets corroded real bad, this and these two pieces, because they're hard to get to and hard to clean when they're on the ship. And if you got it pre-assembled from KISS, there was no corrosion protection on that. So this is why we're taking this all apart, is to get these pieces painted. Yeah. So here's another one of those assemblies off of a different helicopter, and you can see the corrosion I'm talking about. Even on the outside of the Sprag clutch housing, even though it's heat treated and has some protection on it, you can see it started to corrode real bad. And then back here, where it's hidden, you can see the corrosion has gotten really bad. So you guys need to keep an eye on this. I would take it apart. It's not that much work. Unstab your engine and take all this off. It should be doing some maintenance in your Sprag clutch anyways. So get these painted. If you're assembling brand new, before you put it all on, get this painted. Just some Rust-Oleum spray paint is fine. You need to rough it up a little bit though. We sandblasted these pieces. This one is, you really don't want to sandblast it, because you can't put the whole assembly in there, but get it roughed up so the paint has some chance of sticking. You need to remove these 6 Allen head bolts around the outside here. Now this piece is going to be pressed on, so the easiest way to do it is to get a long razor knife, and you stick it in between there, and then tap it with a dead blow hammer, and that way you can get a little bit of distance in between there, to help push it out. And just go all the way around, and then do that. And then once you get that popped up a little bit, you can get a fine blade screwdriver in there, or sometimes it'll pop right out from there. But might be real careful so you don't damage anything. But get a screwdriver in there and just
really fine blade.
The best way that I found to service this clutch is get you one of these hypodermic needles, or it's not really a hypodermic needle, but it's like a syringe. There you go. And I put a little piece of flexible tubing on it so that you can get back in there. When we're reassembling this piece, you want to pre-oil that back bearing in the Sprag clutch, and we'll show you that now. So it's this back bearing back here is the one that you want to add a little bit of automatic transmission fluid to it. Go ahead and shoot a little shot in there, and then it doesn't take a lot. Just put a couple of drops in there. That should be good. And then reach in there with your finger and then spin that bearing around, just so you get a good lubrication on that back bearing, because it doesn't get a lot of lubrication back there. And so this is the periodic maintenance you want to do, is check that bearing, make sure it's not frozen up or come apart, and add a little bit of fluid in the back of there. Now we're gonna go ahead and reinstall that 7/16 fine thread bolt using that 5/8 impact socket with a little bit of Loctite. So we're gonna put that bolt in now. And so we're using some green Loctite in it. That's all you really need. Some guys get real crazy with the Loctite, but just put a couple of drops on it. And now we're gonna install it. Start it by hand, so you make sure you don't cross thread it, and then we like to run it in until you can't do it by your hand anymore, and then we're going to use the impact to put it back in. The actual torque spec on this, I don't think it's really that critical. You just want to get it, in good with the impact. The reason we use the impact is because there's really nothing to hold the transmission from spinning to get an accurate torque anyway. So we just torque it in with the impact and just hit it a couple times. That's it. That's all you need to do. And now we'll reinsert the center Sprag clutch assembly. So with a little bit more inspection, there's actually a little bit of recessed little cavity in the back, and we went ahead and filled that up with fluid. You can see it back there, just to give that bearing a little bit of a fighting chance. But when we go to install this center section, you might want to put a little bit of ATF fluid on your O-ring so that you don't damage the O-ring when you're putting it in. So just get a little bit of fluid on your finger and wipe it around the O-ring. So this is the inner piece of the Sprag clutch taken apart. You can see the outer Gilmore belt piece pressed off. Also, there is another bearing. This one right here. It's a actual bearing, and it is pressed onto here. So if you need to clean all this up, you can take this bearing on. Sometimes they're stuck on there, but this piece can come off so that you can get to this and clean. Now be careful, because this is a tight tolerance fit here. It goes in this bearing and then this piece right here. So if you're going to sandblast this or sand it or whatever, don't touch this surface and don't touch this surface right here. You can see they're pretty clean because they've been in the bearing. But you can see there's light surface corrosion on its outpiece, so we need to clean all this up, even underneath this bearing. So these are the O-rings we use to replace for the Sprag clutch. They are 4-inch outside diameter and 3/32. These are nitrile and the 70 Duro rating. I have a bunch of them. If you need one, just contact me and I can get you one of those. Otherwise, you can find them. Where I got them from was the O-ring store. They're online. They have a pretty good web page. Get a lot of my O-rings from them. Okay, so we did it off camera. What we did is we removed this O-ring here. This is that 4-inch diameter O-ring, 3/32 diameter, and put a new one on, and we're going to reinstall that now. Here's these the small screws that we used when we popped it out, and you can see in the back they don't go to anything. They're just there. They're just plugs. Okay, and make sure that your Sprag clutch, make sure this is all clean, and make sure this is all clean and free of any burrs or scratches on the side, because this is the part that actually engages. This is the inner portion of the Sprag clutch. The bearing is in the other assembly, but make sure these are clean, no burrs, and we're going to reinstall it now. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and put that in, and it should be able to just push in by hand. Line up the spline and then get that put in. You could, if it doesn't want to go in all the way, you could lightly tap it with a dead blow hammer, but it should be able to push in by hand, especially if you lubricated that bearing. And then now what we want to do is install the E-clip. So this is a large E-clip or C-clip, whatever you guys call it. And these things do have a top side and a bottom side, or front side, back side. And you need to look, and if you look real closely, it's hard to see here, you see that it's round on one side and it's flat on the other, because these are punched out. So you want the round side to be against your aluminum Sprag clutch. That way the edge doesn't cut in. So when you reinstall this, make sure you put it in the correct way. There is a difference between the two sides. So we're going to go ahead and reinstall this E-clip. Make sure that you wear your safety glasses when you do this, because this part, you know, it could fling across the shop, but you're going to go ahead and squeeze it in there and get it installed in. Like I said, this ratcheting one makes it kind of nice because you could, you know, ratchet it in, but the last little bit to get it in, you have to squeeze it beyond the ratcheting.
We're in, right? Yeah, we're in. There we go.
And there you go, and that's installed. We like to put the actual clip 90 degrees from the bolt. So install it like this with the E-clip 90 degrees to the bolt. So now we're going to go ahead and service the Sprag clutch, and in order to do this, you need to remove that second bolt. We remove the just a one to blow it out, but take your Allen wrench and remove that second bolt now. Okay, once you have that done, you want to spin the Sprag clutch so that the two bolts are on a 45-degree angle in relation to each other, right about like there. So you can see the upper bolt and the lower bolt are at a 45-degree angle. The reason we do this is when you fill it, you're going to fill the Sprag clutch until you see some fluid coming out this bottom hole. And if you had it in the bottom, the level wouldn't be right. So we're spinning this at a 45-degree angle so that you have more fluid. And so that'll put the fluid level at about like this in the bottom of your clutch. And we're going to use that syringe with the hose again. And we're just going to inject some fluid in there. And we're going to do it until, let me see if I can get in here. We're going to do it until we see fluid come out that bottom hole. And there it is. There it is. Yep, there it is. Okay. Go ahead and put the second bolt in, the one that was on the top. And again, make sure you get a good torque on those, both on the top one and on the bottom one. And that's it. Your Sprag clutch has now been serviced, and it should be good. Not quite sure on what the service interval is on this yet. Maybe some guys, leave a comment if you've had to service yours and what life you got out of. This is a brand new build, and the kit has been sitting around a while. So while we had it apart, we wanted to get the pieces painted, and we just threw a new O-ring on it, just for good measures.